in the Jordan era. So if you look here, let's go to the overview or team status first of all. You can see we are almost a quarter of the way through the season. We are 9-8, basically playing at about 500 on the road and at home, on a little bit of I would say a hot streak, even though we won 6 out of the last 10. Well, I feel like we played better. We're going to look at that here shortly. The killer, as you saw on stream, is that we can't hit threes. And we'll actually look into why that's a big issue. So first things first, you can see on the left side of the screen, if the playoffs started today, you would be the 8th seed and we get the Knicks. That would be a very disastrous situation because there's this guy named Patrick Ewing. I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but he is really, really freaking good. So that is a little bit of a concern. Let's take a look into the stats to kind of see what is fueling us, both the positive and negative side, for this start. The first thing that we're going to note here first, we'll actually go by per game stats to make this easier, is Ronnie Cycli. You can see here, he's only started 15 games. Remember, he had a leg injury. Thankfully, it only kept him out for a little bit, 2 games, but we were really nervous that that was going to be a big thing. And you can see, based on his stats, he is super, super important to this team. So you can see, for us, he's averaging 18 and a half, 13, basically 18 and a half and 13 and a half rebounds. His field goal percentage is massively huge, 71%. Obviously, that's a little bit above the norm, but yay, for us, it's working. Free throw percent is 77.3, but the key thing is you got to go back to the Jordan era. Perimeter players weren't necessarily the dominant guys on a lot of teams. The number one option was to play inside out, so you go down low. Jordan was a little bit of an exception because you can go into triangle offense and you can work in the pinch post and still be effective. But Cycli is big for us. He gives us an out, and you'll see why that's important when we look at some of the statistics from some of the other key players. Obviously, the big face of this team is going to be Glenn Rice. You can see in terms of points, he is right behind Cycli. He's played in all the games. He's going to, because he is a shooter, and shooters shoot. So you can see 18.4 for him. 40% from the field, not the worst thing in the world. We'll gladly take it. The big one here you can see is the 3-point percentage. So ideally you like to make better than 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3 I guess would be the league average, and he's slightly above that, so that's actually a big thing. You see almost 2 threes a game, but remember, this is also an era that threes weren't shot a lot, so we're going to be shooting more than you normally would. Field goal percentage, free throw percentage, you can see 79.2. So all in all, Glenn isn't actually doing bad for us. His 3-point percentage is low compared to that, and obviously if you followed Glenn Rice's career or even have heard remotely of him, whether it's Miami, Charlotte, the Lakers, whatever, you know, even the Rockets, you know he's a 3-point shooter. That's what he does. And he's been effective for us. So he is ideally, it's him and Cycli, that's your 1-2 punch. Steve Smith is the kind of the X factor for this team. And there is a reason why. It's disappointing to see what he's doing. So let's look at Steve Smith. Steve Smith is the X factor. Just like Mike Miller will be the X factor to Magic, we will talk about him. But you see Steve Smith averaging just over 11 points, about 2 assists a game. Field goal percentage isn't bad, 39.7. We've actually been able to do some work with him down low, which has been kind of nice. But this is the killer. He also is a 3-point shooter, and he is not hitting threes. He is shooting 17.5%. That's terrible. Russell Westbrook looks like Larry Bird compared to Steve Smith. And free throw percentage is also very terrible. I've been having a really hard time getting that down. 39.4%. Not good, not good. So we'll have to work on that. If you want to see here, rating is 75, so it's not necessarily great, but it works. Mid-range is 79. I do like that because the mid-range game, for me personally, is my favorite area of the basketball court to work with offensively. Just a ton of area instead of just down low and outside the 3-point line. So see if we can get him going. I won't hold my breath. But hey, if he can get going and mix for a nice 1-2-3, and staggering the minutes with Glenn and Steve Smith would be a big help for this team, let me tell you. Mark Lewis. So when Cycling went down, we knew we needed a center because we don't necessarily have a true center. So we had to go out and make a move. And you can see he started 2 games with Cycling out, and he's played 7. And he has been extremely effective to the point where he can be productive off the bench. So if you look at his stats for a rookie, 12 and 10, mostly off the bench. Big help for us. 2 blocks a game. He's shooting 70% from the field. Hell, he's shooting better from the free throw line than Steve Smith is. And let me tell you, if you've seen me shoot with this guy, you know he is absolutely terrible. So 50% is a huge deal. But he's been super effective, 7-3. So you have 2 true centers that can play. They won't play together, but they can play with different units, so it still always gives you a low post threat. And then he is a much better defensive player than Cycli is, so he's a good rim protector, and that helps a bunch. You can see on the road, he actually plays better, which is something nice. Not a whole lot better, but he definitely plays better in terms of his production for points and hitting the boards. Super important. See his field goal percentage is better on the road. Free throw percentage is exactly the same. Pretty cool. The question is Burden and Askins, if we can get them going. So you see Burden just doesn't get a ton of minutes, but you see just under 4 points a game. Field goal percentage is 40%. 3-point percentage, no, like I said, no one's really shooting the ball from 3 well. And then Keith Askins, he's only averaging 2.5. He's also not getting a ton of, well, he's getting more than Burden, but he's not being effective with his minutes in terms of production. Those 2 guys I'd like to see a little more from. Again, they're younger guys, might be asking a lot, but he has not been able to really fit in, and we're hoping that we can maybe get him going. Get some guys going off the bench and get some extra production. That would be great. We're going to look at the schedule really quick here, just so we can see a couple of things that stand out. You can see we had a really rough start to the season. We got destroyed by Patrick Ewing. And when I say destroyed, I mean destroyed. We can look at the box scores unlike some other sports games. So you can see it was rough. 3 of 10 for Rice, 2 of 13 for Steve Smith. That seems to be a theme, cyclically with 7-11. But Patrick Ewing, 23 and 21. Absolute dominance. And then we even had issues stopping John Starks. Gerald Wilkins too. Tough, but Ewing pretty much dominated the game. You can see we bounced back against the Celtics, back-to-back losses with the Nets and the Hawks. Get a win against the Pistons and Hornets. So just like that, we're back to 3-3. Back-to-back losses to the Bucks and Jazz. Beat the Sixers. Back-to-back losses to the Kings and Pacers. This one was rough, because if you look at us, this was the first game that we did not have Ronnie Cycli, and you can see we extremely struggled putting up points. Held defensively too. We couldn't stop the Pacers from doing anything, but we struggled greatly trying to keep up with them. 75 points, 125 in this era is absolutely terrible. You can see Rick Smits dominated us. Detlef Shrimp, 20 and 13. Thompson, 17 and 10. They really did work on us. Got to get better. But this was the one without, because we just expected to get blown out. Without Ronnie Cycli, we went into New York, had a lead for a good chunk of the game, went toe-to-toe with them without our best player, our best scorer, I should say, and we win. We got a win on the road. We came from behind late and were able to hold them off. You see Glenn with 30. I'd say probably his best game in terms of when he got his points. The same with Steve Smith, 21 points. So 51 between those 2 guys, we'll take it. Lewis, 18 and 17. Like I said, this guy has been super effective. And then Bimbo and Long, 5 guys in double figures, and Long almost had a double-double too, 9 rebounds, so doing his thing. Hell, even Steve Smith, 4 or 5 from the free throw line, we'll take that. Look at that, solid 9 for 9. But only 6 threes this game. seeing this if I pick a random game, like, I don't know, this game against the Sixers. That's not the norm for us. We're going to shoot them. They're not going to, but we are. Like, this game against the Sixers is a really slow-paced game in terms of scoring. Got out to a great start. Pretty much we just held them off, so that's why it was like that. I think in this game we had a big lead, like 27, 28, 22. Okay, I lied, but close. Glenn with 25, Smith with 16, Cycly, not a lot of production point-wise, but didn't have to because it's hitting the boards and other guys were hitting the shot, so we'll take it. The Magic, funny, because they're going to get a top pick. I wonder who they'll take. The Blazers, this was probably the funnest game I played. I lost this game. I gave up a buzzer beater to Porter? No. I think just Clyde. Like, we just couldn't. Oh, I can't remember how this game played. It wasn't a buzzer beater. That's the Magic franchise. But Clyde is a monster. Look at that. 19 of 35. 41 points. Domination. We tried our best to keep up with them. Glenn with 26. You see his balanced production from this team. Smith, 7 of 15. I'll take that. Cycly and Lewis combining for 28 and 19. I'll take that too. Just couldn't keep up with them. It is what it is. But not bad. Boston, so 2-0 against them. And then here's where we lie right now. So we're in December. Got some catching up to do. And we'll be playing this soon. You've got at home the Suns without Barkley, because I've not added him. You've got Dallas, and you've got Cleveland. So I don't know if we get through 3. I know for sure we get through 2. But things I'm looking at, you got Cleveland twice. That should be a fun matchup. Brad Doherty, Elo, Mark Price. They are a good team. It just, as with most teams during this era, Jordan was in the way, so they had a hard time winning. No Alonzo Mourning, but still, they can be capable of Muggsy Bogues. Which reminds me, speaking of Muggsy Bogues, my first game against the Hornets, look at this. Bimbo Coles with 11 points. I was trying to exploit the fact that this guy is super short, so we need to take advantage of that. We'll take it. But the month of December should be really interesting as we start to get into the grindy part of the season. You got the Sixers again. We struggle with them. The old Celtics, so deal with Bird, McHale, those guys. The Magic again. And then after Christmas, the Suns. A very difficult Jazz team in Portland. So back-to-back road games. This is a really tough stretch here because you have the Jazz, the Blazers, the Sonics. Kings, and then the old Lakers. And then your reward for coming out of that, the Bulls and 2 of your next 3 games. So this stretch should be really fun to watch. I'm not sure if it'll be fun to play. It'll be a challenge. But we'll see what we can do. Instead of looking at records, which we'll do here in a sec, first thing we'll look at some statistics. I know everyone likes that. So you can see league leaders, Jordan. Oh, what a surprise. 31.8. He's shooting 63% from the field. Wow. That's that is scary. 3-point percentage. Oh, he's not shooting a lot. Okay. I'm like, okay. Well, we'll leave that one alone. You're the typical guys up here. You got Ewing, you got Drexler, you got Karl Malone, a monster, of course. Joe Dumars up there. 25 points. James Worthy, 23.8. Still getting it done at the age of 30. Jeff Malone, 23.5. That's scary. Jeff and Carl combining for almost 50 points. Hornacek, before he goes to the Jazz, 22.4. Kevin Willis, 22.8. People forget how good this guy could be. I could score. Chris Mullin, 22.2. All right. Sort. Rebounds, of course. The hot rod. Number 1. Ewing, number 2. Gonna see a lot of centers here. Kevin Willis. Cycly there. So we got a guy at the 4th spot. Purvis Ellison there, Sean Kemp, 15 and a half, well, 16 and 12, basically. David Robinson hurt. I'll be back shortly. And then Mount Matumbo. Yes, down here, Akeem Olajuwon, 10 and a half, not bad. Round out the top 10. Assists, Stockton and Magic, no surprise there. Kevin Johnson, Tim Hardaway, Mark Jackson. Got to see Mark Jackson get a lot of assists because he's just giving the ball to Pat, and Pat does this thing. Michael Williams. This Pacers team, like I said, is very, very scary from what I've seen. Kenny Smith, the Jet, Drexler, up there in assists. He was averaging 25.8 and also giving you about 9 assists. Scott Skiles giving you those assists too. Maybe if they get a good center with that top pick, they might be able to get something else. Just saying. Steals, Stockton, Robinson. Really rare to see a center there. Especially him, no offense. Yeah, I'm just going to be a little surprised to see him there. Jordan. Percy Hawkins. More of a scorer, but you'll still take that. And then Pippen, so there you go. 2 of the best perimeter defenders this game has ever seen on the same team. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how that game goes. You'll have one on Glenn, one on Steve. It's going to be a tough one. Tim Hardaway, Olajuwon, Dumars, and Drex. Blocks, Robinson and Ewing. Definitely not surprised Ewing's up there. He throws everything, let me tell you. Mutombo, 2.3. I'll get to see Olajuwon soon. Turnovers. One of the funny ones, I know people get on LeBron a lot. He turns the ball over a lot. When you have the ball a lot, you're going to turn it over a lot. It's just how it is. So he's got the 4th most. Jordan is 6th. It is what it is. You take the good with the bad. Like I said, we're about a quarter of the way through the season. We're getting there. So we can kind of take a look and see how things are shaking out. So you see us down there at the 8th spot. Go to games behind, because that's what matters. We are 2 games ahead of Boston. So as it stands right now, we make the playoffs. Remember, it's the top 8. We have wins against the Knicks and the Pistons, so we know we're capable of beating good teams. We did lose to the Hawks. We got destroyed by the Pacers, and we lost to Washington, I believe. So we've got 2 wins against Boston, so that helps, and we have them again soon. Same with the Hornets. So just looking at the bottom part here, is only 14. Remember, 28 teams. It's not huge separation because we're still kind of early in the season, but you can see the teams behind us. Maybe Boston, probably the most talented. The Nets with Drazen would definitely be could be annoying if they get hot, but it is what it is. We're going to score the fewest points because I still play full quarters, but it's a slower pace. I did change it also in the middle of the season, so that helps. Points allowed, again, we're going to give it the fewest points because I play 12-minute quarters. I changed it in the middle, but slower pace. But hey, you can see we can make it. The question is, can we avoid this team? I mean, if we're going to do anything in the playoffs, make a little bit of noise, we got to avoid Chicago and the Knicks as long as possible. If we can avoid those 2 teams, at least in the first round, give ourselves a matchup where we feel like we have a shot of winning. And then, whatever happens from there. Going to the West, Portland dominating the league. I got to see. I said we lost by 10 in that game. It was probably the funnest game I had all season because it was just back and forth. They can score, and they score in a hurry. So you've got them. Got Utah, obviously, Malone and Stockton, and as we saw, Jeff Malone. So they get their baskets, they play defense, they have ways to score. The Lakers, old, but still getting it done. You got the Suns, no Barkley, but still very, very effective. The Rockets, I know, will get going. Golden State's a fun one. Run DMC, Mullen, Hardaway. I'm going to forget the other guy off the top of my head. It's a 3-headed monster. They put up points. The funny thing is, look at this. San Antonio's the 8th spot. They're 6-8. It's crazy. I don't think that'll last. I think they'll get it going, probably because David Robinson is hurt. But man, the Sonics will come. That might be it. 2017. Oh yeah, because you're gonna get Toronto and Vancouver. It'd be interesting to see what happens here. I definitely think Seattle and San Antonio will probably make the playoffs. Over who? I don't know. Sacramento out. Maybe Golden State. I'm thinking kind of cool for Golden State because they were a really fun team to watch during that era. I just don't know if they're going to be able to keep up with those guys.